And we are live. Hello,
All right.
everybody. Everybody
Howdy.
watching live and ones that come in and watch the replay later. I'm here with Wendell Hurricane Burroughs. He's my guest tonight to talk about Bigfoot from a Christian's perspective or standpoint. We can take questions, comments,
Mm-hmm.
just see where it takes us. If you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself there, Wendell.
All right. I come from Arkansas. I grew up hunting and fishing all during the winter. From a young age, all of our family did. During the summer, we'd work on vehicles and everything. So, but being outdoors was our deal. So, like I said, I hunted a lot by myself, and at the time, only Bigfoot or anything like that I'd ever heard about is maybe the Boggy Creek monster and down there, but that was far away. And then even further than that was the stuff on the west coast, and I was like, no, there ain't nothing around here. I had incidences with other people that I was hunting with and coon hunting where dogs, as we hunted with dogs, they wouldn't go in certain areas. And I was always questioned that and wondered why, but now I know. But one day I was probably 14, and there's a bluff side down here on the Catherine Creek. I was sitting up there getting ready to squirrel hunt, and the best I can describe it is a chatter. It was more like a rah, 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 rah. It was on both sides of the creek. I listened to that for probably 40 minutes or so, and I couldn't figure out what in the world it was. There's all kinds of sounds being splashed in the water, and I got over the edge to try to look, but I couldn't see nothing. I got back up to the house, and my uncle, I was telling him about it. He said, I told you not to go down there. And I said, yeah, I know, but that's where the best den trees was at. And he said, that's where the woolly boogers are at. And at the time, I laughed it all off because I'm like, there ain't no such thing. And anyway, to progress the story forward, in 2011, I believe it was 10 or 11. Anyway, we had a store building up here, our local store that we'd sit and talk, and several of the guys started talking about, did y'all hear all them whoops and screams and everything last night? And I said, well, that's probably from a big cat or something. I hadn't heard it at that time. And another guy across the way said, no, I think it's one of them Sasquatches. And I'm like, I doubt that. I'm still on the fence, and I'm like, I don't think that was it. And anyway, we got to talking about everything that was going on, and I said, I ain't gonna believe in none of the Bigfoot, and one reason it ain't no Sasquatch or nothing in the Bible. And the guy was sitting across from me is Duncan was his last name. Anyway, he goes, well, you ain't read your Bible real good. And I said, well, yeah, I read pretty much all of it, all from cover to cover. He said, well, look at Genesis 25:25. So he said, you follow that and you figure out from there on your own. I said, oh, okay. Of course, everybody knows Genesis 25:25 is where Esau was born. He come out covered with red hair like a garment. Well, I'm like, okay, what's this mean? I try to follow all the scriptures and everything. Well, when you follow all the scriptures through, it don't say anything about the Bigfoot, but it sure sounds like one. Because Esau later married two ladies. One was a Hittite, and Anyway, both of them was from Canaan and had the giant bloodline. Well, if you take him and his descendants, if he married two giants, then that sure would sound, because he'd be covered with hair, and then his descendants would be covered with hair and have the giant genetics. I like, well, okay, I've talked to him, and I'm like, well, I'm going to start researching this and figure out if any of the evidence points to any of this or if it's anything really out there. Well, I did around, say, within 15 miles on my own around here, around the creeks and everything, and got to reading and researching and looking at what structures people would say was made by Bigfoot, and got to actually looking at stuff and letting it sink in and think, well, how could that tree get broke off at this level? And it started adding up that, hey, there is something out here. Well, we was coon hunting one night, and actually after that run in on what I believe was a Bigfoot, because it was the loudest scream that I'd ever heard at the time. And after that, we've heard one up at OARC that way. It's a whoop scream, best I can describe it. But after following all the facts and everything and researching, what I've discovered is that there's two, I want to say being or creatures, physical things that's getting put into the Bigfoot category. One is these descendants of Esau, or a what do you call Neanderthal type person,
a Neanderthal, a caveman.
Yeah, and is the Janus, the big ape. And the reason what I found why I say that is because of the tracks. I've always followed tracks. I can track just about anything. Deer, we hunted deer, bear. And tracks don't lie. I mean, they're going to go right to the source. Well, you have one track that is the more shaped, appears to 5 toes. Everything looks more humanish. Everything's in proportion for a regular foot. Then you have the other one that's got the turned out digit that is more of the monkey type. And after we got to investigating, people call us with their sightings. Now, mostly just here in Arkansas, but I'd say 90% of them is the more humanish looking Bigfoot, and then the others is the more ape looking one that actually, when they put their arms down, they drag their feet through the bottom in a swinging motion when they run. So just from the tracks, there's 2 different things that's getting put in the same classification as Bigfoot. At least that's what I see. I know there's no experts, because until they actually capture one or let everybody in on it and see it, then you really can't be an expert or anything like that. So, but from what I've seen, just from locally, that's the 2 different beings or whatever they are is getting put in the same classification, and they're not the same. But I don't know what you might think about that or any discussion on that.
Well, I've heard the Isu connection where he was the covered in the hair. I didn't realize the women, you see, wives were from Canaanite and had giant blood in them. I
Yeah.
always followed more along the lines of the Nephilim, the fallen
That.
angels or the Watchers.
Yep.
And it talks about in the Bible in several places. Well, Genesis 6:6 is my favorite. It says there were giants in the days of Noah and afterward.
Yep.
And I always tell people you got to figure David and Goliath came after Noah's flood.
They come through.
David's mighty men of valor came after the flood, and he had, I forget, like 300 captains. The way it described them is they wasn't purely human; they had giant or angel blood or something in them. Because I remember one had a bow nobody else could draw.
Yeah.
And it describes several. Then you had people like Samson, who had the superhuman God-given strength. I don't know if he had possibly some other kind of blood or genetics in him. And then there's another race that describes in the Bible. At one point, I know God tells his people, the Israelites, to go and wipe up the troglodyte. And they were described as being bestial and hairy and living in caves.
Yep. That's the next thing that I was going to get to about Esau. If you look in Genesis 36, I wrote down anyway. It says that he took all of his possessions, cattle, everything, and it don't say that he went to Mount Sur or went and stayed at Mount Sur. It says he went and dwelt in Mount Sur. That's a big difference when you're reading the scripture and you can follow and you see that, because there are a lot of the sightings and everything believe and point to the fact that they stay in caves or there's a cave system, and that's exactly what the Bible points to right there. So kind of like what you're saying.
Well, talk about caves and even mine shafts, old mines. I've said before, even old abandoned barns and houses way out in the wilderness.
Yep.
I believe a Sasquatch is intelligent enough. If it's already got a ready-made shelter of any kind, why bother building a tree structure, teepee, or whatever when you got an old, maybe half dilapidated barn, but it's still cover, shelter.
Right.
Why build one when you got one sitting right there? I believe they're that smart. They go up in there, build a nest, get out of the elements. I mean, me and Mama talked, any animal has got the instincts to get in and out of the cold, regardless of how they do it. They do it.
That's right.
Rabbits, that's smart. But talk about the caves and the mine shaft stuff. I was watching the new episode of the Expedition Bigfoot down in southeastern Kentucky, and they were talking about exploring caves and mine shafts and stuff because of the sightings down in there. And the only thing I thought about that, you're in southeastern Kentucky, the most dangerous thing you might run into would be a moonshiner. You go poking your nose in the wrong cave or mine shaft. But it's a good way to get shot down there in the mountains. But they were talking about, and I was talking to Hal Lane on I think it was my last episode, I think it was number 3. And we talked about how back in the 70s, the whole subterranean underground theory was real big, and it's kind of died off in the Bigfoot community about them using caves and tunnels. But I agree with that. I believe they've stayed. It would explain a whole lot about why you don't see them more often than you do if they're underground.
Yeah.
And it could go a ways explaining. Now I realize not every report has the smell, but a lot of reports that god awful smell they supposedly have with them. Well, if they're living underground around a sulfur deposit or just old brackish spoiled water or rolling around in dead animals and their own feces and whatever. I mean, just being big and hairy and out in the woods and sweating up a storm, you're going to reek.
Yeah, you're going to reek. And like you're saying, rolling around in feces or sulfur, they have to deal with ticks and everything, mosquitoes and everything. And if you got sulfur on, none of that bothers mess with you. And just like growing up, we know where all the sulfur springs, because they drink it out of the sulfur springs because it's supposed to be healing and heal your eyes or backaches or anything like that. And this is just people that I grew up with. I'm sure that these creatures, beings, whatever we're classifying them as, is smart enough to do that, because I have a dog that's part Basset Hound and part Labrador. I guess you'd call it a Bassador, but anyway, it'll actually go out. We got a horse out here, and it'll roll around in the manure and everything, so that the ticks and stuff won't get on it. So if a dog's smart enough to do that, then I'm sure anything else, when you're being pestered by ticks, they got to have some way to get them all off. So,
Yeah. Well, my grandfather was half Apache Indian, and he had a thing he did where he'd take sulfur and put it in an old pair of boots and burn it. And you wouldn't find a tick, a mosquito, or a snake, any kind of flying insect or a snake, for a mile around the house when he did that.
yeah.
And he would do it to keep snakes out of the yard. Like you said, sulfur, and we've got a natural spring. Used to have a well connected to it at the bottom of the farm here. We don't have any livestock anymore. It caved in. But you could smell the sulfur down in there. I mean, and like I've told people, where there's a spring, there's got to be an underground stream somewhere
Somewhere,
feeding it under there. And if there's a stream, more than likely there's at least one underground cavern it's passing through, a fairly good size. Of course, you got Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, the Mammoth Cave system, and it's the largest in the world. I think maybe a third of it's explored. And that ain't to mention the rest of the state caves all over. I've told people, Harrison County, they don't really think there's a lot of caves, but there is. I mean, you go through the woods every now and then, you'll look over and you'll see an opening that wasn't there the last time you passed through.
Yep.
Something's cleared the brush out of the front of it, or the earth shifted or something and opened it up. I believe this state's just honeycomb with caves and tunnels and caverns. And back in the bootlegging days, they dug tunnels for miles and miles to run their bootleg up towards Ohio. When the feds and everybody come looking for them, they'd go in them tunnels, go underground.
Yep.
And it was almost like an underground railroad.
Yep.
And people laugh at me when I say that. I was like, all right, you fall in the sinkhole someday, somebody don't come get you out, I guess you'll believe me then. But
Right.
that's one reason when I'm out there, I always watch where I'm putting my feet, make sure the ground's good and firm underneath me before I do it. I ain't no little boy. It probably wouldn't take much for me to go right through.
Right. That's what I do out when I'm out, because probably about, well, it's been a month ago now on our last Bigfoot investigation that we went on over here at Payneburn. The leaves and everything was wet, and then there's a little, I guess it's where a tree had rotted out. But anyway, I ended up stepping off in that and slipped off and right down and broke a rib. So you got to be careful when you're out doing that.
Always look down, always look up. I'm always looking up, make sure there ain't a bobcat sitting up in the tree getting ready to pounce out on my head.
Yeah.
I always tell people I'm more worried about bobcats and snakes than I am getting mauled by a Sasquatch. But
yeah, the I'd say 95% of the Sasquatch are just curious of you, and they want to avoid you as much as possible. I mean, they want to see
for the most part.
Yep, for the most part. And then the few percentage that is bad, I say, is that other ape type. I got a friend that calls them a gowie, but anyway, it's an ape type that gets put into the Bigfoot, and I think that's the few the remains of that Gigantopithecus.
Gigantopithecus, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say that's about 5% of the sightings, at least here in Arkansas, that I've people's called in to me about. So, and they don't usually run together as far as the tracks and the two. It's like there's the group of the ones that's got the tracks this way, and the other ones is all the human type. So it's like they don't get along.
Well, I was going to ask you about. You talked about being in Arkansas. Of course, y'all got the big hogs out there to worry about, as far as what you got to watch out for when you're out. You talk about the track. Some of them had different splayed toe or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, toe sticks out.
Splayed off to the side or cocked.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you was talking about Boggy Creek, and I've met Lyle Blackmore. Of course, he's probably one of, if not the world's leading expert on the whole Boggy Creek. He's wrote about 4 books about it now.
Yeah.
I'm reading his latest one, Sinister Swamps, right now. I know some of the reports were of 3 toes.
Yes.
Have you ever found or had reports of the 3-toe tracks?
I haven't up here in north central Arkansas. I found one that was a 4-toe track, but I think it had been it'd been either born genetically wrong or got in a trap.
Yeah, there's a dozen different things can happen to lose a toe.
Yeah,
especially for them if you're out there 24/7.
Yeah, infection, and it could just rot it off. Yeah. But
you got bit off by something.
Yeah,
I don't know what's mean enough to walk up and bite a Bigfoot's toe off, but it could happen.
Well, that's back to you was talking about snakes. They're out there in an environment, and I'm sure that they're aware of a lot in their surroundings. But you be at the wrong place at the wrong time, got snake bit on his toe or a foot. Yeah. That's what'll happen. It'll rot off.
Now, just judging by their size and weight and just general, I'd say a Sasquatch has got a constitution. They don't get sick or poisoned very often, as far as like snake bite, or I don't think one's going to die from even like a copperhead or rattlesnake. They could probably take it off.
As far as the size, unless it happened to be a smaller or younger one when it occurred. But as far as their weight and size, if it was an adult, it wouldn't kill it or even make it sick usually. Yeah. But now I've had a call in and everything of one of them, the Sasquatch, that seemed sickly, and best they could describe it is that it had the mange. Of course, it was in the hot summertime, so I don't know if they would shed hair or if it actually had the mange or what, but they was adamant about how it had splotches of hair and then not hair. So
yeah. Well, like I said, it could be mange, it could be shedding. I never really thought about the shedding thing, but it makes sense. I always assumed the ones with less hair probably had a case of mange.
Yeah.
It's like the one we was discussing there from Maysville, Kentucky back in the 80s. Said it had long, almost horse mane-like hair. Whitish. I don't hear too many anymore, anyway, of the real long hair, flowing haired ones like that.
No.
I've heard up to like 6 inches or so, but not like a horse's mane hair. Which it wasn't real descriptive in that little article I was reading. It could have been referring more. I don't guess he really had time to look at the texture, unless it left some behind. I guess if he was describing the way it read, like it was as long as a horse's mane, flowing in the wind as it galloped off. The way I took it, anyway.
And
have y'all had any reports of the white or long-haired ones down there?
I had one that was grayish to white, but it had way they described it, it was actually really short hair. I mean, it was just all over, but it was real short. And I contribute to it that was probably an older one, but that might be wrong. They could just be colored that way, but it had a extremely short hair, kind of like compared to a beagle's hair. It's real short and all over its body, instead of like a German Shepherd that's got real fluffy hair. But it was a whitish gray, so that's the closest that I've had any reports of to a solid white one or anything. They described it as being more gray up on its head and down its back, and then its legs and shoulders was the almost white color. So there's all all kinds of different colors that I've been told or seen. The one at Heber that I would say is the alpha male, the biggest one out of the group anyway. It's got a reddish color to it that the people around there have seen it and reported it. It's almost like a collyish color hair, reddish orange. Do you get?
Yeah, I think most of what I've read about here in Kentucky is the reddish brown, kind of I call it a mahogany, that dark brown with a red cast to it.
Yeah,
like the wood, or black. I hear some black, and it's
the
kind of leads
majority.
into
The majority here
what
is
they call the woo. People talk about cloaking or.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was saying the majority of them here is the dark color, the dark brown almost to black or black that I've had reports on. What was you saying about there?
I was going to say the hair color, I've heard theories about, what they call the woo, where people talk about them cloaking or disappearing into thin air or jumping through portals or whatever. And I don't really buy into all that. I was thinking, the hair, depending on the color, time of the year, your foliage, a dark brown would blend in better. A white would better in the winter. I don't know that they completely change colors from season to season, but they might get darker and lighter between a black and a dark brown or reddish brown.
Yeah, deer do that. White-tailed deer in the spring, they're more of a reddish color, and then by the fall and winter seasons, they are almost grayish looking. A lot of them around here, so that it's definitely a deal. Yeah, I don't even going back to the Bible. There it says the giants were there and they were mighty and they were strong and everything, but it don't tell you that they had any special powers or they were in this realm, this world, so they had
flesh and blood.
Flesh and blood. So I don't see them having anywhere in the Bible that said they had any special powers or beings or abilities. So
David took one down with a sling.
Yeah. David took the giant down with a sling. Of course, God was guiding his rock.
I was going to say there's a whole lot of faith behind that rock, but
it was still a rock.
Well, they've got studies now that certain kinds of animal hair, they think is clear that can either reflect light or shift colors with it. I forget, morpholuscent or something like that. Yeah. There's other animals that have that.
Right. I think they're adapt from just by being out there. I mean, you're going to learn stuff that we wouldn't know. I mean, how to blend in, how to move. That's their environment. They know everything about it. Their colors are design or where they can hide in a second, and just like we have camouflage on when we're deer hunting and everything, you got some of the ghillie suits and everything. You won't see nobody. You can be 3 feet from them and won't see them. So,
I remember there used to be a picture and a poster had like 6 Marine snipers in camouflage in this picture. It's like, can you find the 6 Marine snipers in this picture? Well, the original pictures, you sit there and stare at it all day.
Yeah.
You'll be lucky if you see one of them. Then you flip it over, and the other side it's got the infamous red circles around these marine snipers, just like some people put around pictures of Bigfoot or what they think is Bigfoot.
Yeah.
So, which I don't really like the red circles, but don't laugh, because sometimes you need that red circle to see what's right in front of you. Because, like I said, you could hold that picture up under your nose, you still wouldn't see them snipers until somebody drew that red circle around it.
That's correct.
Like you said, that's just, and that's like people, you know, I know a lot of people bash the shows and stuff. Well, they make too much noise. They sound like a marching man going through the woods. I agree with some other researchers I've talked to. You're not going to sneak up on a Sasquatch.
No.
I don't care if there's 2 of you or 20 of you. And if you're the highly trained SEAL Team 6, you're not going to sneak up on a Sasquatch in the wild.
No.
Like you said, they're 10 times are better out there, in my opinion.
Yep.
They know we're coming. Probably have senses that would blow ours out of the water, right? Especially hearing and smell. I'm not so sure about sight, especially during the daytime.
Right.
But I believe they'd hear and smell you before you ever got close to them.
Yeah.
Because most, and they're not completely nocturnal, but most creatures that are mostly nocturnal, you know, have poor eyesight during the day. And that's why I used to, when I go out, I try to go out during the day or right around sundown. Because if they are mostly nocturnal, that's when they're just waking up.
Yeah.
I don't know about a Sasquatch, but when I first wake up, they could definitely sneak up on me.
Yeah.
So I figure that's my best chance to catch them with their pants down.
Yeah.
Early in the morning when they're first bedding down. I'm not going out in pitch black looking for them because that's their world then.
Well, we have, but we've got into some hairy situations. So.
Well, that's your advantage. You got a team. I'm a solo actor. It's me and Jesus out there, and I've got faith. But the Bible also says, "Tempt not your maker."
That's right.
To me, running around in the woods in the pitch black looking for Bigfoot at night would fall under tempting your maker.
Yeah, that would be it. Yeah.
Not to mention teetotal lack of common sense. Because there's, like I said, there's things out there other than Bigfoot to worry about. Fall and break a leg.
Yeah.
People always, well, you go out during the daytime. Yeah, because I'm by myself. That's that thin line between brave and stupid. Don't camp out on the wrong side of it.
That's it. Yeah. They
So, at all your times have you gone out? How many sightings have you had?
As far as sightings, one. As far as actually being able to see and something, and it went across the field, and it was at Falk when we seen that. Now, while we've been out, like this last time was at Sillamore, you couldn't actually see it, but you could hear it, and the trees that was there, it was shaking 2 trees, and these trees was probably 5.5, 6 inches through, and both them trees were shaking like this, and there's no wind or nothing, and the low grunt growls. I mean, it wasn't just real loud, but it was like ruh, ruh, ruh. And that's when we backed out of there. My youngest member of our team, he really didn't believe in Bigfoot before that night, but he saw 2 that was face to face or close to face. One, he saw the shoulder and the head as it run by him, and the other one is as it swiped its hand. He saw it face to face. He's a firm believer or knower now. And
hang on just a second. We're having some kind of audio issue.
Oh.
We're having some kind of audio distortion. I ain't sure what's. It only lasts a few seconds when it hits. It just did it. I was trying to figure out if it's something on my end, feedback, or. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. It's still doing it a little bit. I ain't sure what was going on there. It comes and goes, whatever it is. Because you were talking about your youngest memory having an almost face-to-face sight.
Yeah, it was there at Sillamore before this incident I was talking about with the trees, because we had planned. There's a box canyon there that kind of wide. It went out two different ways on one end. We was going to try to push them through this box canyon. At least one of them, we had found tracks of at least a larger one, and then two smaller track sizes was about 16, 18 inches, and the biggest one was pushing right at 20 inches, I would say. And we'd found them all in that area, and our plan was to kind of just gradually walk through there and have a team at the end of this box canyon to where we could videotape it as they run by them. That was the simple plan, or to get whatever video we could. Well, it didn't go as planned. Where we thought they would be in that, where the tracks was at, there wasn't nothing in that area. So they come back down that Y of that creek and canyon. It's actually a river, but it was dry at that time. It's up in Stone County. And so we kind of met back there at the Y point, and I told them, we'll just go up the other side and see what you run into and come back, because I didn't figure they'd run into anything up that way. Well, as they jumped up onto the river bank or creek bank, that's when Austin is his name, run into them two. I would say they're either smaller Bigfoot or juvenile Bigfoot, because Austin's 6 foot, probably 6'1" football player, and he was 19 at the time. I believe he was either 18 or 19. And, kind of tough guy and everything. Well, when he jumped up onto that riverbank, that one took off at an angle past him. He got to see the left shoulder and the side of its neck and head. And when he whirled around, there was another one was there that kind of took a swipe at him with his hand. And our team leader that was with him, because we go in teams of 3, Matthew Stone actually grabbed Austin and pulled him back down the creek bank there, so that wouldn't swipe his hand at it and actually hit him in the chest or his head, the way it sounded. Anyway, they got back from that, because we was all talking on the radios. And when we got back to the Y, they told us what all had happened. And we planned to make that a loop and come up behind them two. Or that was the plan there. Well, when we come up behind, we was going to circle them. And we got to a spot where it turned into just an all young pine thicket. And where the road kind of had a turnaround spot, and where you'd have to go off into the woods there, it turns into a trail. Well, we was going to go into that trail. At that time, all 6 of us had grouped back, and we started fixing to go into that trail, and that's when them trees started waving back and forth. And the sound, and we heard a tree knock. Anyway, after that, we decided to pull back, and we pulled back and back to the creek bank, and figured out that we had lost our element of surprise, and that the plan wasn't going with that. We was going to get a good video of anything. If anything, we got in there and got hurt. So we decided to pull back and come back to camp and just talk about it and figure out what to do for the next time we go back up there. So that'll probably be next fall before we get back up there. Who knows if the same activity will be there or not, because it seems the Sillamore National Forest seems to be like a corridor where they travel from north to south, and they go through there. And that was in the early springtime, and it seems like they either migrate or they're because of deer's moving or everything is starting to green up, they go to that area and there's more food or something. But do you seem to have that happen down there in Kentucky where they move around, or do they just seem to stay in one general area?
Yeah, I've noticed here on the farm. I've been dealing with it for 3 or 4 years now. Probably, I believe they was around a lot longer than that before I realized what I was dealing with. Real quick, Primate Objective jumped in there and said hi, guys, a couple of minutes ago.
Oh
I
yeah,
put his comment up there on the screen. I don't know if it's showing on your end or not.
oh yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, could you see where he said hi, guys?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to let him know he wasn't ignoring.
Oh. Something happened. Well, I see the primate objective said hi, and then Barry disappeared. I don't know.
Are you there?
Here he's coming back. He's back.
Yeah, I dropped out for a second. I ain't sure what happened there. Uh, yeah, okay. I see. He said he just joined. Comments are live. Okay. I thought for some reason the comment was 30 some odd minutes behind on us. Okay. Well, we got a couple of viewers. If they want to jump in and ask questions, I'll try to keep an eye on the window over here
Yeah,
and put
we'll
them up
take
on the
any
screen. But what you were
or
talking about a
comment.
migraine,
Like
yeah,
I said, this
questions, comments,
research
questions, answers if you
Sasquatch
got
is
them.
all a learning experience, and you never get too old to learn anything. And some people notice stuff that you don't. That's one of the good things about having a
Yeah.
team is that each person has their own gift or ability that the other ones don't.
Well, my weak point is, as is obvious by how I fumble around here, I'm not a real tech savvy guy.
And neither am I.
But I have to be my own tech guy. I'm learning slowly but surely. What you was talking about migration and notice them coming and going, like I said here on the property where I do the biggest part of my research, I talk to other witnesses and stuff elsewhere, but I don't get out. Especially with everything that's going on now, you can't get out and go actually investigate anything hardly.
Yeah, that's kind of ruined everything.
Yeah. What I was going to say is they come and go. I mean, there'll be times where virtually daily you'll hear a tree knock or a whoop or something. Then you might not hear nothing for 2 or 3 weeks or a month.
Yeah.
And there's even been spans of 2 or 3 months. I was like, well, Mom, they're gone. I don't know why or where they went, but they're gone. And there was a time or two I was like, I was about ready to give up. I was like, they're not coming back.
Yep.
It's almost like they heard me. I'd say that, and the next day you walk out in the yard, thump, thump, thump down in the woods. Okay. But I like you. I think part of it's they follow the food sources, the deers, fish, everything. I don't know if migrate's the right word because I'm not sure how far they go or
Yeah,
where they go. But
I don't really think
they meander about, I guess.
yeah, that'd be a better term. They meander around in their home territory. Now, how large that home
Yeah.
territory is, who knows?
Well, I know Daniel Benoit was mentioning, I think it was like a full grown mountain lion or puma or something's got a range of 170 miles or something like that. So you can imagine, I would say an adult Sasquatch is going to be that or better
Right. Yeah.
than a big cat or a bear. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe when they leave down here, if I knew the right people in, say, Pendleton or Bourbon County around me, activity picks up there, headed north or south, or Grant County over to the west, or Robertson. I hear a lot out of Robertson County, which you're only talking. Sometimes I'm only 7 miles from the Pendleton County line, probably about that from Robertson. Sure, that ain't a very big span at all. But if they're 40 miles down the road, I'm not going to see or hear them.
Right. Yeah. That's, we have the same problem with the area that we're at here at Payneburn, or it's little E. It's in between Payneburn and Heber Springs. The area there, there seems to be one female that'll stay within like 5 mile range there, and a few little younger ones. But the group, the reddish haired one, it's there for a month or two, and the activity picks up, and then it's gone. Well, I got to talking, seeing how that there's different people it's really 2 counties, Van Buren County and Cleveland County. And when that reddish one's gone from there at Payneburn, Heber Springs in Cleveland County, it's over on the other, there's a lake there. It's the Greer's Ferry Lake. The activity picks up on the opposite side of the lake, which if you're going through the woods or as a crow flies, it's probably like 10 miles. But if you drive, you got to drive all the way around the lake, and it's probably 25, 30 miles. But Bigfoot just goes straight across. But anyway, I'd call my friend up, and I said, well, y'all got activity over there? Because this went dead over here. And he says, yeah. And they have a reddish haired Bigfoot. Now, the sightings there, it don't seem to be as tall as the sightings that people said here at Payneburn, but it's the same color. So it's either his genetic line, a kid from him, or they're just getting distorted, quick views. So they're just, people judge things different at different distances, height and everything. So, but I believe it's the same group.
Yeah. Talking about height and distance and all that, I met Cliff from Finding Bigfoot, him and Bobo, and he made the comment, people are the worst judges of size and distance.
Yeah.
If they tell you it was 50 foot away, it was probably 50 yards or vice versa. And if they think it was 12 foot tall, it was probably 8 foot tall. He said, just as a general rule of thumb, most people are really bad at judging size and distance. We got the primate projector come up there again and said, isn't it fair to say we're outclassed greatly in their environments? Well, we was just talking about that, I guess, right before you come on. We both pretty much agreed their senses are probably at least 10 times as sharp as ours, especially hearing and smelling,
yeah. And ability
to camouflage themselves.
Camouflage and move around. That's this 2 weekends ago.
There's no comparison
about the area there at Payneburn, and it's probably a 45-degree angle that goes up this mountain. And like I said, I fell and broke my rib. But you can find the tracks and the areas where they're at, and you can tell they just run right up it. But we was talking about that, man. My buddy Dale, he owns the property there, and I'm like, well, if our feet, my dad, when they grew up in the 30s, they went barefooted everywhere, to the creek, everywhere. And he tells stories about how once it gets to certain time of the year, they'd pull their shoes off and not wear them again till it got cold weather. So your feet get tougher, which yours is always, Bigfoot's is always out into the weather and the element. So, and with their toes being able to be exposed, they can actually grab and dig in with their toes and go right up somewhere where we couldn't go with our shoes and everything.
Oh, yeah. More or less the exact opposite. I've only had 2 partial sightings. Mom has better luck seeing something than I do. But my first partial sighting, it was the opposite. It was right around dusk. And I know I'm going to end up repeating this story over and over, but what else are you going to do? It fits what we're talking about as far as how they can move and get around.
Right.
I was walking along the fence route, lying along the edge of the yard right around sundown. Wasn't just getting good and dusk. Wasn't doing anything. Just out there clearing my head, wandering around. And all of a sudden, about 30, 40 yards on the other side of the fence, downhill from me on a downhill slope like that, I just hear this, and something takes off through the brush and trees. And all I see is flashes of that reddish brown because it's about mid-spring. So, everything's full bloom green.
Right.
So, I don't know about Arkansas, but here in Kentucky, that time of year, you go out in the woods, you're lucky if you can see 20 yards in front of you.
Yeah.
Because of the foliage and the underbrush.
That's why we do most of our investigations, because we're trying to get a video or a picture or sighting like that in the fall to the late winter, really early spring.
When the leaves are off and stuff.
Yeah. Once you get that vegetation and foliage, you can't see nowhere. Plus, back to you saying by yourself, it gets to be more, you can be 5 foot from one and not know it, or any other kind of animal. It gets to be a little.
Like I said in the past, there's been small deer bedded down in front of me. I almost stepped on them before I saw them. If they hadn't moved, I probably would have.
Yep.
And the same thing with this sighting. I figured it's maybe 30 yards from me at the most. I'd have never known it was there if it hadn't made a noise and took off. And Daniel Benoit was explaining to me, black bear cannot run full tilt downhill because of their shorter front legs.
Yeah.
I didn't know this until he explained it to me. So he said, I don't believe that was a bear, which I knew. After the fact, I knew it wasn't a bear because from what I could see, it's just the flashes. I could see almost like it was bipedal, just the way it was moving. It was like I was almost seeing an arm swing and leg swing too, and it was on two legs. Looked like it was between 8 and maybe 9 foot tall and reddish brown looking. So that ain't a black bear. And I mean, this thing is just bulldozing down through there. I can hear limbs snapping, the foliage getting crushed underneath. I'm standing there, and just your first instinct is, what was that? And you're watching it go down, just bulldoze down through there, and it kind of slopes downward and turned into a little draw and went down on into the valley out of sight. And I can still hear it crashing. And I'm ticking off in my head, that wasn't a deer. It wasn't a bear. Whatever it was a lot bigger than me. And then the common sense / survival instinct kicks in at the very end. What am I going to do if it comes back? Because I'm standing there with not so much as a toothpick to defend myself in the yard,
Yeah.
When I walked out there, I had no idea I was going to run into something probably twice my size. Well, not run into it, but be that close to it. Because the way this thing moved 30 yards, and this goes back to something I say all the time, if it wanted me, it had me, and I'd have probably never saw what hit me.
Yeah.
I don't believe the fence would have slowed it down.
And
I know I'm not going to outrun it.
A fence won't slow them down, or at least whatever I saw across the road. Me and my buddy, his real name's James Clayton, but we call him G.I. Joe. Anyway, when we went down to Fout, we saw whatever this was. It had to be a Bigfoot. I don't know anything. Anyway, it run right through a barbed wire fence. When it run to get to it, it was like it was going to go over the top of the barbed wire fence, but it was a 5-wire barbed wire fence. So the top 3, it just clipped right on through, and it went right across the field. And
I've read several reports like that where it plowed right through a fence like it wasn't there.
And it's
sometimes taking the posts out of the ground or snapping them off.
Whatever it was like it wasn't there. And like I said, it was a dark color, and it running all the way across there. That's the only thing it had to be, unless somebody is muscled up and can run a person run through a barbed wire fence like that. But it was bigger than me. I'm 6'5", so it was right at 7 foot, whatever it was. So
yeah. And he said there the canopy has to be down. Like you said, it has to be down to get good video or even a good visual. Like I said, the canopy wasn't down when that happened. And I've had that happen twice now. The other time I think it was a different one. It was more black in color, and I was coming up by the old pond. I just come up out of the woods, squatching, been down there praying and squatching, hooping and hollering, doing knocks, tree knocks, whoops. Nothing the whole time I was down there. It starts getting dark. Like I say, when it starts getting dark, I bring my tail end out of the woods. So I'm coming back up through the field there by the pond, and I'm going around the left-hand side of it. And over to the right-hand side, there's a little tree line right there along the bank. I hear that saying, humph. And this time, it ain't yards. It's probably 35, 40 feet. But it's getting dark, so all I see is a black shape take back down off over the hill where I just come from. And it dawns on me, was this thing following me the entire time I was right around me somewhere? Probably sitting back watching me put my trail cams out and stuff. The whole time I was down there. Followed me back up to the edge of the wood line and let me know once it saw that I was actually leaving, hey, dummy, I'm right here.
Yeah.
So we both agree with that comment about being outclassed. I've heard people call them the ninjas of the woods. Yeah, you like I said, you're not going to sneak up on them. They'll sneak up on you. It's though you don't find Bigfoot, Bigfoot finds you.
That's it.
And I've had another occurrence. I didn't see anything, but I just cleared the tree line, and I heard the distinct sound of what sounded like pretty good branch or limb being snapped. Not like it was stepped on or something walking, just one snap behind me. It's just like, all right. Is that your way of letting me know it's time for me to go? I mean, sometimes I feel like it's a big game of cat and mouse, and I'm definitely the mouse.
Yes, you get into that a lot if you're dealing with a Bigfoot and you can notice your surroundings. It's like they want to give enough action or anything to let you know that they're there, but they don't want you to know where they're at. So it keeps you kind of bewildered, or if you do see them, it's just a glance as they go by. Mm-hmm. And did I really see that?
Oh yeah. Now, I don't talk about it much, but I had years ago what I think was a roadside crossing on the way home from work, and this is back in the 90s. And the reason I don't talk about it much is people have almost talked me out of it. Oh, you saw something. You saw a deer. You saw a bear. And my own father even said, you know what? I think you wanted to see Bigfoot so bad that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Something about 50 or 60 years. Yeah. So, and like he's the point I was getting to, I told you that to tell you this, as Ron White would say. The whole thing probably didn't last 10 seconds at very tops across a 3-lane highway. And like I said, I definitely saw something. I know what I think it was. I can't prove it.
That's the way I had the one there and fell.
Back then, I had a flip phone, didn't even have a camera. If I'd have had it in my hand, I'd have never got it up and got it video rolling in time.
Yeah, that's being out in the field and being around them and them moving. People don't realize that something this big can move so fast. I mean, it's like distance-wise, say 50 yards. It's 2 seconds maybe at the most. Yeah. They cover that 50 yards. I mean, it's just like that.
And if you listen to the podcast and read the books and stuff, report after report after report says, I can't believe how fast this thing moved. That's where a lot of people get the whole supernatural. You hear them say it was like they was gliding. It wasn't like they wasn't even walking or running. It was like they was gliding, which I think they just moved so fast it almost gives that illusion.
That's
that
what
they're
it's
gliding along.
And as far as being quiet and what it is their feet size is so wide that it distributes the weight and everything. It's like having a snowshoe on. If you're walking out on something and you want it to be quiet, it distributes your weight further out. So it's quiet as they move, but that's my theory.
I agree with that. The distribution of weight. Another thing, I think they keep their weight back and walk on their heels and the
Yeah,
mid part of their foot more than their toe. Because you know how humans, even the most fleet-footed person, we put the toe down first. That's
yeah,
how we walk or run. I believe they keep their weight further back on their heels. That way, when they want to, they can sneak.
yep,
That's their version of tippy toeing, more or less.
yep,
And that just goes to the whole being outclassed. Like, I'm a intermediate woodsman. I know my surroundings. I know what kind of life we got around there, nature, animals and stuff. I always tell people I'm not one of those guys that Lewis and Clark stopped and asked for directions on their way through.
yeah,
Some people, I bet there's people out there that are 10 times better than me in the woods. You probably are. But there's some guys that, they can shoot a gnat's wings off at 200 yards. They can track an ant through a snowstorm. And it's just like, I wish you would run into one of these things to show you just how good you're not.
hmm yeah. They definitely. Uh, if you start looking at them and all the details and tracks and everything, you'll find out real quick that you don't know what you thought you knew. I mean, it's
Oh, that's why I always tell people I don't even consider myself a researcher. I'm more of a enthusiast slash investigator. And I don't claim to know anything. I
that's me.
think I have opinions. And I try to apply just common sense. I mean, I've got a high school education and I took online courses in investigation because at one point I thought I was going to be a private investigator, be the next Magnum PI. Well, it turns out you don't really spend your time chasing Russians to get diamonds back to good looking women wandering in your office door every day like Mickey Spillane. It's pretty boring in real life and a good way to get shot. I've come to the realization I don't care how much you're paying me. I'm not sure I want to get shot for you.
Yeah,
I'll
yep.
take a bullet for the right
Man,
reason, but money ain't it. Uh, where was I going with that? But like I was going to say, I just try to use that, my basic education and common sense, mostly common sense. I'm like you, there are no experts. And
that's it. There's no
do
expert.
you listen to Sasquatch Chronicles,
Yeah,
the podcast? Wes says it best. Until somebody's got one in their garage studying it, there are no experts.
that's it. Yep,
You can't be an expert on something we haven't even proven is real yet to the rest of the world.
yep.
I mean, that's one of my pet peeves. That just drives me nuts when I hear people, I'm an expert. Okay. I'll let you, more power to you, is all I can say. Because, like I
That's
said,
it.
these things will teach you real quick that you're not an expert,
Yep.
at least not on them.
And it seems like I don't know if you would call them. They let some of them are single, and I don't know. It's just that one. Then you find a group, a family group, or clan, or whatever you want to call it, and they have different habits. If you get to actually move to different areas and stuff like we was there at Mortar Creek, and we'd find the snail where they had just broke thousands of them. So they was obviously eating these snails and piling them up. And then you go to a different area and you find something totally different that they've been eating, what they like or how they, like tree structures. There at Pamber, it's usually just broke stuff, real high, and like they point in one direction or something. But now over at Cleveland, Arkansas, I mean, they build all kinds of the X's into the stuff and the woven stuff, and it seems like one group will do one thing and another group will do something else. But that's how we are as a family. You like different stuff, so obviously they do too.
Yeah, I've heard other researchers much more experienced than me. Some of them, the guys that are on TV, Lauren Coleman and guys like that, they have personalities just like people.
Mm.
And what you was going back to what you said about there's a few bad apples, just like people.
Yeah, just like it. Yep.
I don't know if there's the Bigfoot equivalent of a sociopath or a psychopath. I hope not. And if there is, I hope I never run into it. But
I
there's
agree.
good ones, bad ones. And I'm sure they have good days and bad days just like us. You don't want to run into one when it's got a toothache, you know?
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
there's been other researchers talking about, I forget, was it John? I think it was John Green was the one that said, we are their TV. Their biggest weakness is their curiosity. We are their entertainment.
Yes.
Or something worse to that effect. I think it was John Green. I could be wrong. It was one of the better known researchers that made that TV comment. We are their TV. And that goes back to the story I was reading you there at the beginning where it was trying to get in the house. I mean, how many stories? I know like I said, I'm borderline obsessed with this. And I listen to podcasts, watch YouTube shows, and when it's on TV or read books. How many cases, is where they're looking in windows or tapping on windows or motioning for people to come outside? Something just beeped in here. You have to wonder what's up with all that. Is it just idle curiosity? Is there a deeper meaning behind it? I mean, some people think it's sinister, especially if they're trying to motion for kids to come outside or whatever. But I mean, if that's not curiosity, I don't know what is.
Yep. They back to the different types. It could be just curiosity, and then in others, it's like, who's to say what the reason was? It could be several different things. It just depends on what, if it's a lone Sasquatch, Bigfoot, that's trying to do whatever it can to survive, or if it's had a bad day, like you said. It could be either way.
Yeah. Now, that case we was talking about, what about trying the back door and then coming around and trying the front door? Like I said, that's a concentrated effort to get in that house. That's kind of worrisome. Makes me wonder if it wasn't hungry.
Yeah.
Because it was trying hard to get in that house. Maybe the last thing it expected was for the father to open the door for it,
Right.
That might have been the best thing he could do, because like you said, he startled it and it ran off. But if he hadn't opened the door, if he'd have waited for it to break it down, it might have been a completely different story.
Yeah. They definitely want to stay the one that's got the upper hand, and if it ever changes, they'll either leave the area or get aggressive. That's the two choices. When they they feel that they ain't got the upper hand, they'll be either gone or they'll get aggressive.
And I feel like the only way that they really lose the upper hands if we encroach on their environment to the point where we just back them in a corner and they've got nowhere to go.
Yes.
Which society is slowly but surely doing that. I mean, and nothing else, that'll be how they get officially discovered when we finally settled and plundered every square inch of North America to build a strip mall or a subdivision. Of course, I don't know if humanity will be around at that point to find out what Bigfoot was all about either. But other than that, until we eventually back them in the corner where they just got no more wilderness to flee to or back off into, because, I mean, they've been doing it all this time. They're obviously good at it.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of wilderness out there. I mean, that ain't going to happen tomorrow where we back them in a corner, but maybe 50 years down the road or whatever. I'd like to say it'll get solved in my lifetime, but I can't guarantee it. And I've always said that I believe it's just, the old saying, it's better to be lucky than good. When somebody finally does make the big break, gets the discovery, it'll probably be either an amateur like me that just literally goes out and trips over a dead body laying in the woods, or a Cub Scout group stumbles on it, and the kids all whip out their smartphones on the spot and throw it all over social media. The government can't shut it down quick enough.
Right.
Something like that. It'll be just pure dumb luck, happenstance, want to get struck by lightning, float downstream, wash up right in the middle of town or something, get stuck on a dam or something, get hit by a logging truck, something like that.
Too much video will be out there, or too many people will be able to see it, and they won't be able to discredit it and make light of it and be able to. It's there. I mean, when that happens,
and we've come a long way as far as discrediting and making light of it, because probably even 20 years ago, you didn't tell people you saw Bigfoot.
Right.
They think you were nut ears in a squirrel nest.
That's still around, though. I mean,
it's still around, but it's nowhere near as bad.
Nowhere near as bad. But I have all kinds of people that has said, "Oh no, they ain't nothing." Then when you get out of the crowd and everywhere, they come up. Well, I did have this one time that this happened.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you about it. But they don't want to say nothing with anybody else around, or
I think probably, especially your campers, hunters, fishermen, 9 out of 10, if you didn't ask them, do you believe in Bigfoot? Ask them, have you ever seen anything strange or heard something strange or found something strange out in the wilderness? 9 out of 10 of them, if they're honest, are going to say yes, at least once.
Yep.
And like you said, a whole lot of them, they'll tell you behind closed doors. They'll never admit to it in public. That's still the stigma, or whatever you want to call it. This is the kind of thing you don't talk about in public, which I don't know if it'll ever get to the point where you sit around the water cooler at work talking about Bigfoot, but
right.
I will.
Yeah,
whether or not anybody will listen to me.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. But that's one question I want to. I'm trying to bring this question up for all my guests, co-hosts. What's other than Bigfoot? What's the strangest thing you've ever found or seen or heard out there?
Other than Bigfoot. Well, the strangest thing that I've ever seen, and it was on about 5 miles from where I live. It's an area. At the time there wasn't no houses out. Now there's probably 4 or 5 houses, and it's probably 6 miles this road. But there was an area. It's the same. Out hunting one day, we was scouting a new area that we was going to deer hunt that fall. Me and my dad, we walked out into this. It was heavy wooded, and then it went into like an old little field. Well, right in the center of that field, there was a circle that was burnt, perfect circle, and it was probably 2.5 feet wide. This circle, the ring part. And it was perfectly burnt in a circle. Now, how do you do that in the middle of a sage grass field? Me and my dad never did figure that out.
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you. I could probably sit here all night and still not be able to tell you.
I don't know. I've had some people I've told that to. They attributed it to a spacecraft, and I don't know.
That was the first thing that popped in my head when you said circle. I'm sure that's what a lot of people, UFO touchdown there.
But
which, other than Bigfoot, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the whole crop circle thing and all that. And some of them can be faked and some of them can't, just like Bigfoot sightings.
Like this.
I'm like you. I can't tell you it was a UFO, but
I don't know what else, because this was, I'm guessing 20 feet across. 25 feet and perfectly circle, and a 2.5 foot wide path all the way around that was burnt, and it was burnt to where there was nothing left. I mean, it was just black burnt. So, but
as you were talking before you said that, I was thinking if somebody could take a drum that they knock, like a metal drum, knock the bottom out of it and put whatever you're burning down in it after, but you wouldn't be 20-foot circumference. There's too many 20-foot round drums out there.
Yeah, and like I said, this was probably at least 200 yards out through what was big trees, and then you went into this just a little old field area where at one time, probably 100 years ago, it was all was a big field, but the only thing was left was this one area here, probably about an acre, maybe, to where it was just sage grass. So, and this was at one corner of it that perfectly rounds up. Me and Dad's talked about that for years. We ain't never figured it out. That's the only other strange thing that
I was gonna say sage grass. One stray spark, you burn the whole field down. You wouldn't have a perfect circle.
Yeah. Sage grass, I mean, it just goes.
Yeah. It's natural kindling. I mean, perfect fire starter, really. If I had it on hand, I was going to stuff something in a fire ring to get the fire started. Sagebush would be perfect.
Yeah. So
that's kind of similar to something I saw one time. It wasn't a burnt area, but out here on the end of the farm, I was walking out through the field, and I looked down. And there's this perfectly smashed down pathway, and it was slightly wider than my shoulder, so probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 foot. And I say it was about 60 feet long, 50, 60, 70 feet long. The tall grass, and it was smashed down, still alive. But you're in the middle of a field, and I mean, there's yards and yards and yards of untouched tall grass on all 4 sides of it. And the nearest tree is probably a football field away in any direction. And I'm standing there looking at it, and I trace it from one end to the other. The grass to either side of it hasn't been disturbed. The grass where it ends and begins hasn't been disturbed. And all I can picture in my head is Indiana Jones, where the big rock falls down and starts rolling and chasing him.
Yeah.
It looked like a big ass, excuse my language, rock or bowling ball had dropped out of the sky right there where it started, rolled down that slope for 50 or 60 or 70 feet, and then went back. And like you said, that's been a couple of years ago I found that. I've racked my brain. And I haven't been able to find anybody with even really any better theory than a big rock fell out of the sky and rolled. But where'd the big rock go?
Right, yeah, where did it leave to?
Yeah. And like I said, I'm like you. I don't know if I'll ever figure it out. I know there's some kind of cyclotronic wind or whatever. They try to blame a lot of tree breaks and stuff on that. But the tree break stuff I've seen in this patch of grass, I can't believe that wind went down through there and basically a almost arrow straight line for 60 or 70 feet and didn't touch anything to either side or either end of it. Right. Same thing with tree breaks. I can't believe it comes down and twists or breaks this tree and don't touch any tree around it. I have trouble believing that, but
yeah, and I'd have trouble believing that. You talking about a tree break? The same area over there at Painburn. The first time we went over there, which was in 2017, 16's first time we went over there, and it was the fall. And I'm standing there by a break, but I got a picture of it. What's amazing is we come right through there, probably, I don't say at the most 30 minutes before that, and that tree ain't broke, but when we come back, it's all twisted, and it's bigger than a spray can, probably 4.5 inches through, and this tree's all twisted up. How'd that happen in 30 minutes? Something wasn't happy that we was there. But we didn't hear it. But I mean, when we come right back through, it's all twisted like that, and it's shoulder height on me where it's twisted, and it ain't just pushed over like a bear would do it or something. It's actually just twisted in a knot. So wind didn't do something like that in that amount of time. So, but anybody can come up with some kind of say that, hey, this is what happened or this is what happened. But if you're out in the situation and you see stuff, you can come to your own conclusion about what happened. I mean, you can eliminate this, eliminate that, and what's left. What's left is the obvious choice of what it could have happened. Do a matter of steps.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way we did with that circle and ring. We eliminated everything else, but I don't know what could do that. So it's left at
the same way with me with the path.
Yeah.
Like you said, you eliminate the possible, whatever's left. That's a Sherlock Holmes quote there. When you eliminate the possible, whatever is left, however improbable,
is more than likely.
A friend of mine's father, he's passed away now. Yeah. More than likely, whatever's left, that's what you're dealing with. I was going to say, a friend of mine's father passed away now. He told him, son, a quote, if I can get this word for word, I'll be happy. He said, some things can be neither explained nor ignored.
Yeah.
And the friend told me that, and I was like, that just about sums it up right there in a nutshell. You can't explain it, but you can't ignore it either.
Yeah, and it was real. It happened. It happened to you.
Yeah.
And you was there and seen everything. So I can't explain it, but I know it was real, and I know that something happened.
Yeah. And that's why I tell people, if somebody tells me something, I'll give them the benefit of a doubt until they give me reason not to. I'll believe them.
Yep.
And I use the example, if they tell me they saw a flying purple people eater, I don't really believe in flying purple people eaters. I can't explain what one is if you did see it. But if you tell me you saw a purple flying people eater, then you saw a flying, I wasn't there. I don't know what you saw or didn't see.
Right.
So if you say you saw it, you say this, if it did a figure 8 in the clouds and then flew back to planet X or whatever, then that's what it did. Until you do something to convince me otherwise, that I can't believe you,
Yep.
And I know a lot of Bigfoot groups, and I've been hearing lately with the BFRO, especially, they get a report, and if it don't fit in their little window of what they think a Bigfoot report should go like, they kind of toss it out. They might keep a record of it, but you'll never see it on their site. If there's anything really unusual or outside of their little box of what they think Bigfoot's supposed to be and do, then they won't report it.
They won't report
it. I've heard a couple on different podcasts now, ex-BFRO members say that. Like, they won't hardly take a dog man report serious. Anything's got anything like orbs or lights or the whole disappearance. Because, if you go on any state's BRFO site, the majority of their reports are roadside sightings.
Right.
I was driving down the road there and stood alongside the road that ran across the road. And it's a hunter. I was walking through the woods or a field. I saw it. It went its way. I went mine. That's probably 9 out of 10 reports on the BFR and a lot of other sites. And if people would, I think, be a little bit more open-minded, just because you don't understand what somebody tells you, don't necessarily mean they're lying or that they didn't understand it when they were standing watching it happen. You wasn't there.
Yep.
Nobody's so quick to dismiss that stuff. Like I said, I don't believe in a lot of the woo myself, but I don't completely dismiss it because they were there. I wasn't.
Yeah, I said from what I've seen, I hadn't seen no evidence of that or anything. But
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I don't believe everything that's getting reported into the Bigfoot category is all Bigfoot. Like I said, I believe about 5% of them is that
But they still saw something.
they saw something, and it's worth checking out. If somebody tells me they saw something, I'm gonna come and investigate it if they ask me to. You know, in any way possible, and I'll see what the evidence points to.
Yeah. But I'm like you. I don't believe a lot. Where I really draw the line at is the whole mind speak telepathy thing. If something's talking, I said the same thing when I was talking to Hal Lane out of Georgia. If something's talking to you in your head, that ain't Bigfoot.
No.
I hate to say it, but you're probably dealing with something on the evil side there, demonic, or
yes,
at the very least a spirit of some kind.
That's what I was.
I don't believe. And another thing I've always said is, if Bigfoot was telepathic, if they could read minds, we'd never see them. We'd never stumble across them. We'd never surprise. And a lot of reports, it was just a surprise to see me as I was it. They'll talk about his facial expression. It was shocked. They look like, oh, I got caught, Yeah. Well, if they can read minds, you can't surprise somebody that reads minds.
That's right.
So that is where I kind of draw the line, the whole mind telepathy. No.
Yeah, I don't.
That ain't, I'm like you, that ain't Bigfoot. I don't know what you're dealing with. My best advice would be to leave it alone.
Yeah. You was talking about surprising Bigfoot, and I hadn't had nobody personally say it. Well, I had one that it was on the Mississippi River that he would what do they call them, the barges?
Yeah.
That go up and down. He seen one and it startled and run back. But I've been reading a lot of reports and people's asking questions. Why do you think there's so many sightings if you're out been out fishing and they act either aggressive or startled? Well, first thing you think of if you're out fishing, you're going most of the time being quiet so you can catch fish.
Mm-hmm.
If a Sasquatch or Bigfoot's there at the water, it's usually like I heard that chatter, I want to call it the best thing. And after becoming a researcher investigating, I've heard of people have audio of that exact same sound. But anyway, they're usually in an activity, so they're not as acceptable to smell you or focused on what's going on. They're focused on either catching fish or whatever they do by the water. So when you come floating up, they're as startled of you as you are them.
I posted a question on a bunch of the groups about that. Why do they seem to be more aggressive around water?
Yeah,
and one thing I thought about, they don't recognize a boat. They know what a person is, but you stick a person in a boat, all of a sudden that ain't a person anymore.
Right. It's just
now, whether they think it's another animal or just like a car. They probably don't.
Deer hunting or duck hunting, you get in a duck blind. I mean, the ducks will fly right into you there because you don't look like a person.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, it's just the same thing with the car, Maybe they don't recognize what a vehicle is. Because a lot of your roadside crossing and roadside sightings, there's trees on both sides of the woods, especially the road in these rural areas, especially with the crossings. If the thing had waited 10 seconds, the car would have went on past. Nobody ever saw it. But if it don't recognize what a car is, if it thinks it's another animal or something, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I can't read Bigfoot's mind either. And I had another theory with cars. I don't know if you ever did it. I never was this goofy when I was young. I never did it myself. But you remember people playing chicken with trains?
Yeah.
Juvenile Bigfoots, do they play chicken with cars? some kind of game to them. Hey, let me see if I can run up there and almost touch that thing. You know?
Possible. You never know. They got
That's
to
just
do.
something that's occurred to me.
They just like anybody, I'm sure they get bored and come up with things to do. I know they do because of the structures that you see.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them you might say that they're markers, indicators, or even all the way to the point of a crude language sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But other structures, there's no reason for it. It's just looks like it was for fun. So
yeah. Well, I think that's where a lot of your what they call house slapping.
Yeah.
Where they run up and hit a. They want your attention. They're bored. Like you said, they're bored. Hey, let's go mess with the humans.
Yeah.
Right? Slap them out of the house. Watch what they do. Watch the humans jump out of their hide. Because that's how it all started with me here on the farm. We were having what I call the thumps. You'd be laying in bed and late at night, early in the morning, you just thump, thump. And there's a big walnut tree behind the house. And I thought it was walnuts falling out of the tree hitting the roof. This went on for probably a month or two. And then one night, it wasn't just thump, it was wham, side of the house. I mean, I thought a vehicle had hit this house. I jumped. I was half asleep, laying in bed. Jumped up, went running to the front of the house. Mom's bedroom's around there. She was just bedded down here beside me, watching us talk. But she went back in there now. Her bedroom's on the front. We met in the hallway, expecting to see a Chevy sticking out of the front of the house. Like, what? I was like, that wasn't a walnut. I go out the next day. On the back of the house, up below the leaf trough, which is probably between 11 and 12 foot off the ground, there's a big mud smear going down the side of the siding. Now, I told Bobo from Finding Bigfoot about this when I met him, and I never dreamt of it at the time. He said, if you could have contacted a researcher and got samples from that mud, it could have very well had hair and DNA in it. Well, I stood there and looked at it. Well, a walnut didn't do that either, And that's how it got me. I'd always believed in Bigfoot. Like I said, I had that roadside whatever I saw years ago. That's what got me starting to go out and look for them. I went to a couple conferences and they got to talk about houses getting slapped and tree structures. I never really got into all that. But once I knew what to look for, because I thought it was footprints or bust. If you ain't got footprints, you ain't got Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But I found out. Yeah, I found out other things to look for, other things to listen for. I didn't know they whistled. I'd never read a report or anything.
I found out after I got into it, and if you've been out at night, have you ever hear like bird sounds? It's daytime bird sounds, and I'd heard that several times, and I never even thought about it. But daytime animals ain't out at night. If they are, it's from something that's chased them. But I've been out and heard the daytime bird chirps and everything. And the guy was telling me, well, you think about this, to communicate at night and everything, the Indians used those sounds and mimicked other animals. And he said, well, you think about it. What's them animals doing out at night? And I got to thinking about it, and I got to researching that. Yep, that's they do a lot.
I once asked the question. I'm sorry. I once asked the question: did the Native Americans learn the animal calls from Bigfoot, or did Bigfoot learn it from the Native Americans?
I think
because they both do it.
The Native Americans learned it from Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. Either way, I mean, it'd be pretty amazing either way.
And something else there, you was talking about dog men earlier, and I ain't never around here. I hadn't seen none of the tracks. Now I got a friend over by Ball Knob that wants me to come over and check it out, and every time I get ready to go over there, something happens when he's found tracks, and I can't go. But personally, I've never seen no tracks that I couldn't explain that wasn't. But I had incidents where somebody described, well, it looked like a dog and everything, man, that was running. But when I got over there, it was the actual Bigfoot tracks. And I said, well, what's going on here? Because if it's got a Bigfoot track where you saw it, but you're saying it didn't look like the gorilla type, or it looked like didn't look like the human type, but it looked more like a dog or wolf, actually, is what they said. I got to think you're talking about the Indians. The Indians, when they hunted, they used different kinds of headdresses. Like a buffalo, a wolf to depict their tribe, a ram. It also depicted strength, or could certain tribes do that as a Bigfoot?
Well, it's very possible.
Very possible.
I know a lot of people don't think they use tools or fire. And I don't know about fire, because if I'm Sasquatch living in the woods, about the last thing I want to do is start a fire.
Right.
I mean, if California's taught us anything, it's don't start any more fires than you have to.
Yeah,
I ain't trying to make light of it, but I mean, if I live 24/7 in the woods, chances are I wouldn't want to make a fire.
Right.
Because I don't want to burn the woods down around me. Accidents happen, Sometimes it ain't an accident, but my point being, primates, apes, and gorillas, they got pictures of them spearfishing.
Yeah.
And I've read reports of Bigfoot wearing clothes.
Yeah, I have too. And I could actually see that.
Yeah. I mean, snagging off a laundry line out in a rural area somewhere or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who knows? It might take them a while to figure out what it's for and put it on, or who knows? They might have running full tilt, went through the laundry line and just got a shirt kind of snagged around them. They ain't really wearing it. It's just or a sheet or whatever wrapped around them.
I've seen several clips. It's not the gorilla, not the orangish looking one.
Orangutan.
Yeah, it actually put clothes on that they'd left out on the ground and everything. It took it a while to figure it out, but it put clothes on and everything. So might be a novelty to them, but I have had reports that they had clothes on. Well, like not completely clothed, but like one.
I've never heard of one wearing like a shirt, pants, shoes, but I've heard mostly shirts. It has some kind of shirt on. And I ain't heard a lot of it, or read a lot of it, handful. Like I said, accidents happen. It ran through a clothesline, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
And as far as the dog man thing, I wonder if some of them, I won't say a lot of them, but some of them could very well be a misidentified Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Bigfoot's out in the woods 24/7. Its hair gets dirty and matted. Could stick it up on the top, might look like ears. One might have a longer jaw or something. Because you talk about two types. If you listen to a lot of researchers, they'll tell you there's 4, 5, 6, 7 types. So there might be one that's more wolf looking.
Yep.
And now, as far as the ones that just plain as day, it wasn't a Bigfoot, it was a wolf man or a dog man. I can't explain a dog man. I'm like most researchers, they have no natural spot in the world. And the only thing that comes to mind with me is going back to the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah, part of the reason it was destroyed, the Nephilim, it said committed atrocities against man and beast. Mm-hmm. So you wonder if they didn't create some half human, half animal. Maybe that's what Bigfoot is. Some kind of hybrid.
Maybe.
Abomination or whatever. I've heard reports where they say they look like an abomination. I'm probably not saying that word right, but I don't know what to think about. I'm like a lot of people. I hope Dogman's not real. I've heard Cliff Barkman say that a million times. I hope it's not real, and if it is, I never want to run into one. And I'm right there with you. Because judging by 95% of the reports, the dogmen tend to be on the meaner, more aggressive, sometimes downright evil side of things.
If they exist, that's where I put them. They're in the evil class.
Whereas, like you said, Sasquatch, 95%, they're pretty much benevolent.
Yeah.
Now, you get into the whole missing 411. Of course, like I said, you can see I'm a big David Pilates fan.
Right.
The missing 411. I don't believe Sasquatch is responsible for that. Because you got cases where people are hiking through the woods, and yeah, they get separated, but they're still probably within 100 yards of one another. And you're going to tell me a 8 to 10 foot tall creature that probably weighs somewhere between 600 and 1,000 pounds comes running up and grabs one of them that close to the others. Nobody sees or hears anything. That fast, they turn around, the other guy's gone. No sight, no sound, no nothing. I don't think that's Bigfoot.
No.
I don't. David Pilates is a lot better qualified to talk about it. And you notice I don't know if you follow him at all, but he never comes right out and says what he thinks it is either.
Right. Yeah. I listened and to several of them. I hadn't listened to all of them, but no telling what's getting them in the national parks and everything. It's like over here at by OR. I can't think of the name of it, but it's a national park here in Arkansas. They've had several go missing in that park there over the years, and a lot contribute that to Bigfoot because Bigfoot's seen in the area. Mm-hmm. If it is, like I said, it's either one that's tribe that's become cannibal, or it's that second type that's more aggressive, and they're just doing it out of you're in my area, you're gonna die.
Well, like and they don't have to be evil to do that. Any animal can become aggressive, or even cannibalistic. I mean, like I said, you back a corner, the whole cornered rat thing. Back a rat in their corner, the rat's going to turn mean.
Mm-hmm.
Well, same thing with Bigfoot. You back him in a corner. I don't know how you back a Bigfoot in a corner, but
right.
But if you come between it and its young, or between it and its food, or it and its home, if it's got a cave or whatever somewhere, and you come lollygagging down the trail right on top of it, then yeah, bad things could happen to you. Now, I depend on my faith. I always say, where I go out alone, I'm living proof that the 411 don't happen to everybody, because I've made it back every time so far. And I always say I depend on my faith. I don't even take a gun with me, because God forbid I run into a Bigfoot. The last thing I want to see is me standing there with the gun, because I believe they know maybe not know what a gun is, but they know what a gun does.
Right.
And if you got a gun in your hands, the chances of you having a bad day with the Bigfoot go up the second it sees that gun. Because it probably goes into that it's me or you. And it's probably going to be me. If it comes down to it. Because even if you got a gun, you got to have a chance to use it.
Yep.
And like the guy we was talking about at the story at the beginning, the 22 pistol didn't phase it. Well, even if you hit it with the 22 pistol, like I said, what's a 22 pistol going to do to something that big? All you're going to do is make it mad. And I got a 12 gauge, but I don't take it with me. A 12 gauge, if it's flesh and blood. Robert is wanting to join us. I don't know who Robert is.
Robert Taylor?
Could be. Did you send somebody to join the link?
I posted it on our. Well, I know that was your deal that we was going to be on tonight. I didn't send nobody a link, but there's one on our team named Robert Taylor.
I saw where Robert Taylor liked my comment earlier. Can you see his picture down there below us?
No.
You can't see it? Robert Taylor, if that's you, comment or something, let us know over in the comment section. If you can hear us. I just saw it pop up here.
Huh.
Let me check something real quick.
I don't see nothing.
Whoever it is messing with their camera. Let me look on Facebook. See if I got any comments. That was Robert Taylor asking where he could find it. I'm going to take it on faith and click add to the stream. If it ain't who we think it is, I can always kick them right back out.
Yeah.
There they are.
Let me get back on the screen. There we go.
It's
Now
me, guys.
Hey, Robert.
Is it who we think it is?
Yeah, that's who it is, Robert Taylor. He helped us a lot.
Okay.
He joined our team last year.
I try to find. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Let me turn on some
You're a little
light.
dark. I can't really see you, but I can hear you.
I told my wife to try to find the show. I didn't want to be on it. I just want to try to find it.
Well, you're on it now.
You're on it now.
How can I find it?
All you have to do is click the link, like it was said, either StreamYard or YouTube.
Yes, sir.
And that should have brought you to the show.
Well, she got me on here somehow or another, Lord.
Yeah, you're live. That's even better. Hey, tell them about at Sylamore when we tried to run them up that Box Canyon.
Oh man, that was awesome. And we got them back up there, and the younger guys, they went up the hill trying to flush them out. And you could start hearing, which I can't hear good. My ears ring, but Wendell and them was hearing them. And we standing around at the truck. We all come back together. And was we together yet or not? But we heard a growl. We got a growl. And then
That's when they went back up when Marcus and Matthew and Austin went up there.
Yeah.
When Austin, but we heard the growl down there where we was at before they did.
Yeah, that's right. And then we went up that road, all of us together, got up there a little bit, and then that tree knock.
Yeah.
That's what convinced me right there, you know.
That's all them. It was crazy.
Yes, sir.
Plan A and Plan B didn't come out the way we planned it. That's all I can say.
Yes, sir.
Well, I've always heard the saying, man makes plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder if Bigfoot isn't the same way, especially when you're out in the woods. You're out there, you got this elaborate plan, and you're trying to do everything just perfect, and the Sasquatch is sitting back in the tree somewhere.
Yes, sir.
Look at this fool.
Yeah, that we learned real quick. They was just playing with us.
They was.
Like I said, cat and mouse, and we are definitely the mouse.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, you kind of come in on the rear end of us here. We're almost hour and 47 minutes. I was getting ready to ask Wendell if he had anything else he wanted to add or talk about, or questions for me, or.
Yeah, we was talking about tree knocks there. Have you heard more, or in your area, or if you have heard tree knocks? Seems to be in our area that may just be our abilities that I've heard and had more response that's back in the wintertime than in the summertime or spring. Once everything gets foliated and all back on, I've tried to do tree knocks and don't really ever get any answers to it or nothing like that. But now in the fall and winter, you'll get replies.
I've had kind of hit or miss. There's been times I've went out there, beat the poor tree to death with the knocker and get nothing. I have one of my Prayin'NSquatchin videos. I don't know if you saw it. Well, we actually sit there and knock backwards and forwards for a couple minutes. I'd knock a couple times, sit there a few seconds. I'd hear it off in the distance. Knock again, sit there a little while, knock. And it was almost like we had a rhythm or something going that day. Yeah. And of course, the old question is, what if the tree knocks me? Am I standing there ringing the dinner bell? Come and get it. Yeah. And I'm the main course. But like I said, it's hit and miss. There's more often than not, I don't get anything back. But when you do, I mean, it's obvious. You're sitting there. I think Robert clicked out. I don't think he wanted to be on camera.
Yeah.
But it's obvious when you do get it. I mean, like I said, you'll sit there a few seconds. If you knock once, they might knock 3 times or vice. And you talk about it, it seems like you have more luck with that when the visibility is greater. And that just popped in my head as you said during the summer when visibility's down, spring and summer, when everything's green, the knocks could very well be a form of communication. Hey, I can't see you, but I can hear you, even for them. Because, I mean, they might have great vision, but they don't have X-ray vision. You know, they can't see through foliage any better than we can, or maybe better than we can, but they can't literally see through it. So if they're far enough apart they can't see each other, I just thought about, that could be, hey, I'm over here. It might be as simple as that.
Yeah, letting them
and
know.
that goes back to what you talk about them having a language. Does 1 knock mean one thing, 3 knocks mean something else? I've heard researchers, 1 knock means humans coming, 3 knocks all clear, or what
I
happened
don't
to
know what it means, but when you're, we had this happen when we was up at, it's not the Sylamore, but it's Mountain View in the area. One of our researchers' land owns 270 acres. Well, while we had the Killing Bigfoot guys come out with us one weekend, we actually had I would say a tree knock deal where they was answering back and doing everything. But if you hit the boy that was helping us, and it's his farm, his dad's farm, is Marcus, I guess he hit the wrong knock because it just went dead. I mean, they were actually coming in closer and closer, and I'd say they probably got, it's hard to judge distance, probably 200 yards, something like that. What it sounded like, 150 yards. Could have been. It's hard to judge distance from sound. But anyway, David actually moved into that close, and then he hit a knock, and it just stopped. So obviously whatever he did was wrong.
Like I said, we don't know anything. You don't know.
Yeah.
Just like when I'm out there doing whoops, I gotta be hollering, come and get it.
Yeah.
The old jokes, I just hope it ain't a mating call.
Yeah.
I had a private chat pop up. I wonder what that was. That was Robert. Yes, it's me. I can hear you all. Well, we was trying to figure out if it was him. Okay. And how do I get out of the private chat? Okay, there we go. I'm learning. He's like,
that's bad. There ain't none of this popping up on my side, so.
You don't see the comments or anything?
The only ones I saw was the one that was.
No one I put up on the screen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think
maybe here's the deal over here to the side.
Yeah. It's to my right. I guess it would be your
there
right.
It is.
I just put that one up there.
Yeah, I got it now. It says yes, it's me. I can hear you. Oh, Rob. Yeah. It was slid off the screen. See, I'm still learning too.
Yeah. I just now figured out if I click that again, I'll take the comment down.
Well, that's cool. I'm gonna our whole team's gonna do another one of these January 20th with North West Georgia cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
And there's gonna be 4 or 5 of us and do one of these podcasts. This is actually the first time I've ever was on an actual podcast. I've done video chats and everything with different people, but never a podcast till tonight. So
this is only my 3rd or 4th one. It's fairly simple once you get the hang of it. Like I said, it's one more thing I'm not a professional at. Nobody's paying me to do this.
Right, me neither.
Well, that's Bigfoot in general. If you get in it to get rich, I hate to be the one to burst the bubble. Ain't nobody getting rich doing this, even the guys on TV. They might get a decent paycheck at the end of the day, but
right,
they're not getting rich.
our team. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. That's the official Bigfoot team. How the Arkansas boys got started is me and another guy. We make a deer scent that you can spray on that covers your scent. So we was like, well, how can we advertise that? So we got started with taking kids hunting, and all of them in our church group. We formed the Arkansas boys. Well, and we did that for several years. Took kids hunting all over Arkansas, and 2015, that winter, we was like, well, what are we going to do now? And I jokingly said to the 4 main guys that was on the Arkansas boys, hey, let's go down to Fout and go investigate Bigfoot and do some Bigfoot hunting. And they said, yeah, let's go. So that's how we ended up getting into the Bigfoot scene. And all of them grew up and got different jobs and do everything. But I stayed investigating Bigfoot encounters because everybody started reporting them to me. So I just kept doing that. And then the other ones joined. And like Robert, he started last year helping us. So ain't none of us got a lot of equipment, but each one of us has got one piece. So we all put it together and just go out and team up and try to get some good evidence. So
yeah. Well, me and Mom was watching that newest episode of Expedition Bigfoot this afternoon. I had a DVR for her. And she sits there and watches, they got all that high dollar Hollywood back in fancy top of the line equipment. She's sitting there, Mom, after it's over, she kind of looks at me for a second. She goes, they're doing the same thing we do. I started thinking, I said, yeah, Mom, they're just doing it with a lot bigger budget.
yeah. It's like
nothing against them. I hear a lot of it in the Bigfoot community. I hate the TV shows. They're awful. They're stupid. Don't be jealous.
Yeah.
For one thing, like I said, wait till you meet somebody before you decide you hate them or they don't know what they're talking about. Because I've met Cliff and Bobo, Lyle Blackburn, Stan Gordon out of Pennsylvania.
I met Lyle and Jim Moorhead. Like I said,
I haven't met Mr. Moorhead yet. Well, I was going to say, those guys, Cliff and Bobo, yeah, the show wasn't maybe the most serious, best way to go about finding Bigfoot. But that show did more probably to bring it into the public eye. They're the reason me and you are probably sitting here talking, because if it wasn't for finding Bigfoot in particular, wouldn't nobody have the guts to do a Bigfoot podcast, because we'd still be 20 years ago when you saw Bigfoot, you're crazy.
Yeah, I don't want to be.
But thanks to shows like it, they kind of opened it up.
That's another thing you're talking about, the part of the crazy. A lot of them say, well, there ain't no Bigfoot in it. And I said, well, okay, you come with us then. Okay, you say there ain't nothing. Well, just come on and you tell me what this is that we, like when we was at OART and the one whooped right 50 feet, 60 feet from us. And, I mean, it was so loud it made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And I whirled around and we was at the vehicle, so I was under the tailgate. I ain't telling nothing.
Yeah,
I was getting somewhere quick. So
well, the perfect example is Mom. Now, the way I initially got into Bigfoot and everything, I couldn't have been more than second or third grade. Dad brought a book home from the library. And all I can remember about this book was it was as thick as a Bible on a black cover. It said Bigfoot, something, something, something on the cover. And it had a picture of a guy standing next to like a totem pole or a wooden carving. I couldn't tell you who wrote it or what exactly it was about. But Dad was reading it from the library and he let me look at the pictures. And something about Bigfoot just took me from the word go. I believed it. And over the years, I come to it and away from it. I paid more attention before I had my own experiences. But Mom, even after the house slap and everything else, she's like, "Oh, you're crazy. There ain't no such thing as Bigfoot." Well, the first Crypticon they had here in Kentucky, I took her down there with me to Frankfurt. And Cliff and Bobo and Lyle, Stan Gordon, and Lauren Coleman, some of the local researchers were there. She got listening to them, their evidence, their videos, and stuff. And I got watching the shows with me. Mom adores Bobo now. She's his number one fan. But now Mom believes. Before, I was crazy.
Yeah.
But what you got looking at the evidence and stuff, she's like, well, I believe there's something to this.
Yeah.
Because even though I believed in Bigfoot, and I knew they'd been seen in all 49 out of 50 states, I don't think they've ever been spotted in Hawaii.
No.
I knew they'd been spotted in Kentucky. But like I said, I never thought I had one around here on the property and around this area. At least one. Until stuff started happening. I went to the conventions and started listening to other people explain and describe the exact same thing that's going on here. And like I said, went out and started discovering for myself, well, it ain't a footprint, but there's a tree break, and there's a tree twist. Here's a tree structure. The house getting slapped, the knocks, the whistles, the whoops. I'll be dang, I believe we got Bigfoot around here, Mom. And 9 out of 10 reports, they didn't believe in Bigfoot either until they ran across one.
That's it. Yep.
Especially hunters and stuff. I've been in the woods all my life, fisherman. Never seen nothing, never heard nothing until one day I'm sitting in my tree stand and lo and behold, something 8 foot tall and hairy walks through the trees 100 yards from me. Yep. That's how it usually happens. Or your roadside. I was going down the road one night and lo and behold, here next to the road stand something 8 foot tall and hairy.
Yep, something there.
So something will happen to make a believer out of it. And like I said, there's believers and there's people like us that we don't believe, we know.
Yeah.
Once you've seen it, you don't believe anymore, Just for partial sightings and all the other stuff going on around here. I'm past the believing point. I'm into the knowing category.
Yep, that's me.
Yeah. Well, we still got one person that's hung with us the whole 2 hours pretty much. I don't know if they got any questions. I got one live viewer right now. I don't know if that's Primate Injector Steel or Robert or somebody else. Whoever you are watching us, you got any questions?
I don't see none.
Not yet. Give them a couple minutes. Well, if they don't have any questions, I'm trying to think if I wanted to ask you. If you had anything recent?
As far as reports or activity ourselves or
activity?
The only recent thing is, like I said, is last weekend we went back over to Pamber and we found several up on that mountain, several of the smaller size tracks that I say 16 inches by 7-8 inches wide. But that's normal for that area. That we're just going back in March. We're going to do a 3-day investigation there, and hoping to invite anybody that would want to come and help or got any equipment. This is first year that we've got a thermal vision and night vision. So we've been at this for. Well, since 2014, and this is first time when we have this investigation in March that we've got both of them equipment. So we're looking forward to that. So,
yeah.
But as far as sightings or activity around local, I've asked people, and it's been pretty well hushed since about September. I ain't had nobody call me or fresh sightings, so I don't know if that's the same for everybody else or what. But
well, I was going to say here we have one of our lulls or whatever you want to call it, dead periods. And one thing I've noticed, there are times around here it ain't just Bigfoot ain't around. I don't see a deer, a possum, a squirrel, a raccoon, a rabbit, nothing. There ain't even as many birds as there should be which is weird all in of itself. But what I was going to say here recently, when it was all back when this first started, we took the advice of some of your researchers and witnesses and said get lights, put them out in the yard and stuff to keep them from hitting the house and stuff. So we got some of them little solar lights. They're the ones that are about that tall. They got a stake on the bottom, probably that long or so. You put them down in the ground.
Yeah.
Well, we've had them for about 2 or 3 years now. I stuck them down to the ground. You don't have to drive them. You can just push them. But when you go to pull them back out, that long, it takes effort to pull that stake back up. Yeah. Here lately, I found 2 of them on opposite ends of the yard, pushed over, pulled out of the ground, laid on their sides. And then the neighbor, she's got one of them little green slow down kids that play. Looks like a little man, like a horse jockey or something, with a little flag out.
Yeah.
And it stood out there forever. She asked me if she could put it on our property where the road comes between us. I let her. It stood there forever. The other day I went out there and it was knocked over. And I've been thinking here lately, sometimes maybe it's the little stuff, like you said, different stuff. Just the little stuff that you wouldn't really think about until you think about it. And they're like, oh, so the boys are back in town.
Yeah, little stuff.
Just the other day, I thought I heard some knocks out in the distance when I was out wandering around the yard doing something. I don't know if you saw the video I put up just recently from the trail cam with the deer and the rabbit and the little light up in the left-hand corner.
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out what that light was. I went out there and looked right at dusk one day and the other night. I could see one. You know what a security light is?
Yeah.
People put them up in the bars. I could see one. I mean, it was way back in there, 2 ridges over, and it had more of a bluish cast. Of course, the night video was black and white, but it had more of a bluish cast. It didn't flicker like that light in the video did, and it didn't look like me. It was in the exact same position, height, and horizontal. And I ain't saying that's a ghost light or an orb or witch light or whatever you want to call it. People see. I just ain't figuring out what it was yet.
Right.
Or what it is, so I can check it again. If it's still there, I guess I'm on to something. Bigfoot's enough. I don't need to go start chasing ghosts or whatever. I don't particularly want to mess with spirits. I've always been kind of school. If it's flesh and blood, if it bleeds, if it comes down to it, I can make it bleed. What am I going to do to a ghost?
Yeah. Now
That's what aggravates me about some of the ghost TV shows. They'll, come out here and show me. What are you going to do, punch a ghost, tough guy?
Yeah. Now you bring that up, and when I lived at Greenbrier as a kid, I never saw nothing, but all my friends would want to come over to the house there that I lived in. That everybody said it was haunted because they all saw stuff. I had one friend in the middle of the night got up and run out of the house, and had us call his parents to come get him because he was not going to. He said that an old lady fell out of the roof right above him in his bed and looked at him. And like I said, I lived there for probably 6 years, and I never seen anything strange. But everybody that come over to spend all night sure did. So
I've had one definite. I ain't saying I don't believe in ghosts, because just like Bigfoot, enough people see them, they got to be seeing something. Just like UFOs or the Loch Ness Monster or anything else. I mean, like I said.
Back to the Bible there. What do you call Saul when the witch called him back? He is already, not Saul, but Samuel.
Yeah. Well, the Bible talks about spirits all the time. Not angels or demons, but spirits.
Yeah.
Now, my pastor will tell you any ghost is a demon. Now, he might be right. That's what like I said, I try not to even think about it too much. Just like UFOs, people are seeing something, I can't tell you what. I could throw a half-baked opinion on it. There's probably as much our own government as anything else. But
yep.
Back to the one thing I did see, and my friend had an old single-wide trailer. This back when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And I still remember it like it was yesterday. And he'd have his buddies over there every now and then stay for 2 or 3 days at a time sometimes, just hanging out. But he was divorced for his first wife, and he had 2 little kids, boy and a girl. And me and him were good enough friends. He would leave me there at the trailer with the kids to watch them while he ran to town or up to his dad's house or whatever. And there was one day we sat there. He was going to town for something. He said, "You care if I leave my son here with you? You watch you. I won't be gone maybe half an hour." "Oh, sure." So me and the kid, he had an old sofa that sat right up against the wall of the single wide trailer. There was a big window right behind it. You can picture how a single wide trailer is set up. And you go down the hallway this way, there's the kids' room, a bathroom, and a spare bedroom. You went this way, there was the kitchen and an extra bedroom that he had built on to the very end of that trailer. And the front door was right out in front of us. There was a back door in the hallway, clear at the other end, back by the extra bedroom. But it opened up, and there was no steps or anything under it. You had about a 6 or 7 foot drop out into the backyard. So they kept it bolted and locked because of the kids. So we're sitting in the floor, and I remember it like I said, to this day, like it was just always playing PlayStation 1 Crash Bandicoot, the video game.
Yeah.
And he had one of the old model floor TVs that had those kind of bubble screens where if there was enough light, it would reflect part of what was behind you in the room. And we're sitting with our backs to the sofa. And the sofa's right up against the wall under that window. I'm sitting there playing a video game with the kid. All of a sudden, behind us, behind the sofa, I see what's like a young blonde-headed woman with either a blue bonnet or bandana or something on, and a white blouse. I can only see her from about the waist up, and she goes behind the sofa. But I can see her as clear as day, the reflection in that TV screen in front of me. Naturally, I got this. I think he was about 6 at the time. Boy, sitting there. I can't freak out. First of all, I know we're the only 2 people in this single wide trailer. The back door's locked and 6 foot off the ground. They didn't come in it. They didn't climb in a window. They didn't come in the front door because it's right there.
Right.
So I'm sitting there. It's Friday. I was like, "Hey, you want to go out in the yard and play football?" "No, let's go out in the yard and play football." So I turned it. I'm trying not to lose my mind.
Right.
His dad comes back. I remember it was fall going on winter because we're out in the yard. Neither one's got a jacket or anything. Well, he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'll tell you when we go inside." He'd go to his room. He had funny look. And he told me this place was haunted before, and I kind of always, whatever,
Yeah.
And we get in there, and I tell him about it. He's like, "Well, at least you didn't freak out with the kid here. That was good." He's like, "I probably would have."
Yeah.
And the kicker of this, he had another friend who was living in South Carolina at the time. And I don't know, it was probably 6 weeks or 2 months later, him and his fiance come up and stayed with him. And me and the fiance never met, never so much as talked on the phone. I'm sitting at home one day, and I get a call from my buddy. He's like, "You never guess what happened." And I was like, "Well, when you start a story like that, you're probably right. I'll never guess. Probably won't believe it after you tell me."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Jessica saw the woman." Well, my first question, "Who's Jessica?" He's like, "That's Josh's fiance. They're up from South Carolina." "Oh, saw what woman?" And she come out of that guest bedroom early in the morning, said there was a woman in blue jeans and a white blouse and blonde hair and a blue whatever she had on her head walking down the hallway like she'd just come out of the bathroom in front of her. She spoke to her. She said, "Well, she didn't answer me. I followed her." Well, when you come to the end of the hallway, I keep forgetting to put my hands in front of the camera. Say, if this here is the end of the hallway, to immediate right's the door outside, and there's the living room and the kitchen's attached, and his bedroom off to the side there. 3 little rooms that combined probably ain't 30 square feet. The woman ain't there. So here's this woman that I never saw me, never heard my story, saw the same thing I did. And when he told me that, you knocked me over with the feather. I was like, okay, well, at least now I know I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Somebody saying the same thing.
And that's my only ghost story. like I said, I don't know. As far as the people, like my pastor says they're all demonic. I mean, if that was a demon, it didn't bother us. It walked past us like it didn't even know we was there. You think a demon would have done something,
Yeah.
scare us or something? Which he could be right. Maybe the fact that it's stuck with me all these years is just the demon's way of messing with me. But I don't really think so. Like I said, I would think if it was demonic, it'd be worse than that. And I mean, we had other friends that tried to come up with explanation for it. And one in particular, he's like, well, if there was a plane flying over and the sunlight reflected off the plane window, off a cloud just right, you could see somebody sitting in that plane inside the window, their reflection off the cloud into the window. I was like, you know what? I'm more likely to believe it was a ghost.
Yeah, that's a
Than
big,
for the stars to align just right. Yeah. For the stars to align just right for all that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you can't ignore it, but you can't explain it either.
Mm-hmm. That's what I say. Over them 6 years or so, I probably had at least 10 different friends that come over, and they'd see that lady in different positions. That one that when she come down out of the ceiling, that was the craziest one. Though him screaming and running outside the house afterward, but I would have too. But I'm glad I never did see her.
Trying to think of anything else. Oh, I know. One thing I was like, have you heard anything or looked in any of the? So I know David Pilates talks about it. Other researchers. Have you got any areas around your area, the devil's this, that, or the other, or anything, or hell's this, that, or the other?
Yeah, the one place the other side of the lake over there I was telling about, that's Devil's Fork is the name of it, and that's where they have the Sasquatch activity when our area at Payburn goes pretty well quiet. It picks up over there, and it's called Devil's Fork. And then the other one over here by Oark, and I can't think of it. It's a national park. It's got a weird name like that too. And that's where the people have went missing there at that national park by Oark.
That's what made me think about it. David Pilates talks about a lot of people that go missing. They go missing near devils, this, that, or hell's, this, that, or the other, or witches' tree.
It's weird that the stuff is named like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Well, reason I asked, we got one here called Devil's Backbone. We
got one of them.
I ain't gonna go in a whole lot of detail. I mean, you've heard it. If it's spooky, paranormal, it's happened out there. Everything from something running through the weeds, to ghosts, to Bigfoot, to devil worshippers, to witches, to God knows what else. All I'll say is I know, well, the ladies passed away. I did know 3. I still know 2 guys. One I played football with. Guy was African American. He stood about 6'8" and weighed probably close to 300 pounds. Nothing but muscle. Other guy was a little bit older than me. He was a local biker, and his nickname was Psycho, and he lived up to it. Psycho wasn't scared of the devil himself. And he's probably about 6'4", 6'5", 250. Nothing but muscle. Not scared, like I said, the devil. You couldn't get either one of them on the devil's backbone at gunpoint. I mean, the guy that I played football with, he flat told me, he's like, I wouldn't go back out there if you put a gun to my head. That place, I've heard a couple stories about it. I ain't never been there and don't really want to. Somebody gave me a Bigfoot report from there. I'd be like, well, good luck with it. I hope somebody else can help you because I ain't coming.
Right.
That's the whole common sense thing kicking in again right there. Tip not Jamaica, common sense. Some things just best left alone.
That's it. Yeah. I wish I could think of that area. It's over there by Oark. I can't think of the name of it, but we investigate around the Oark, but that's about 15 to 20 miles from this other area that I'm thinking of. And we talked about, y'all want to go over there? And I'm like, no, not if that many people has disappeared. I don't want no part of it.
That reminds me of I was listening to one of the national radio shows. They had Dark Waters on. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah.
And they asked him something about dog meat. He was like, "Have you ever went out looking for one?" And he just, "Why would I do that to myself?"
Yeah.
That sums it up. Why would I do that to myself? Now, I saw now on YouTube where he's putting up cameras where they're supposedly spotted to watch for him, but he ain't going out there looking for him himself. I thought that was about the best answer I'd ever heard. Why would I do that to myself?
Yeah.
I'm about the same way by that place. Why would I put myself through that?
No, there ain't enough money. Or only way I would if somebody just needed help, if it was I don't know, they needed help and they lived there some way or another, and I'd have to think twice about it. But I'm a sucker for trying to help people. So
I was going to say, same scenario. I'd have to think twice about it, but I'd want to help them. I'd probably try to find them somebody better qualified to help them first.
Yeah,
like a priest.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody calls me up, "Hey, I'm out of Devil's Backbone. Bigfoot's got me treed." Well, hang on. I'll grab the shotgun and stay on the phone. If you're still talking when I get there, I'll get out of the truck. But I'm like you. I'd have to seriously think twice about it. If there was any other way I could help them other than going myself, I hate to say it, but I would.
Yep.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to cover or talk about or ask?
I think about it that I know of.
I don't want to wear you out. As you can tell, I can sit here and talk about this stuff all night.
Right. I gotta go work. I'd be hopefully sometime another. We'll get lots of comments and questions. That's even if they want to post them on our page or on this or any kind of questions. I'm game to answer them or try my best to.
I'm the same way. For some reason, I've only got 6 subscribers, and I've never had more than 2 or 3 people watching live at a time. I think maybe 4. I ain't caught on real good yet. I don't think. Give it time. I don't know.
It just takes I don't know. Like I said, I had never done a podcast like this, but our videos and everything, the first 3 or 4 videos. I mean, hey, we got one view, 2 view this week and everything. Now we probably get 100 a day. So, and that ain't many compared to a lot of stuff, but it makes
I'm not trying to name drop, but David Pilates, I watched his latest one last night, and it'd been out, I want to say 6 days. It had like 12 million views or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got 6 subscribers. I think one of my videos has got about 45 views so far. Which, hey, for somebody that don't know what he's doing, I guess that's all right.
That's it's a learning experience. That's why everything I look at it, and I just move ahead each day and pray the Lord to open me doors that whatever He wants me to do, that's what I do.
Yep. That's life right there. One day at a time. Lord, you woke me up. I'll take it from here.
Yep.
Just be with me and keep me out of trouble.
Yeah. He's probably pulled his hair out a bunch of times with me over the years.
Oh, when I was still going to church regularly before all this hit, I had a good friend up there. We was always joking, our guardian angels are gray-haired chain smokers by now.
Yeah. This is just a crazy coincidence. The Lord made the trees grow there. Me and my father-in-law was, he's passed on now, but was hauling junk iron one day. And I had one of them is like a 89 Dodge. Anyway, is the rounded body type. And we had chicken feeders on there so much that I mean, it was a heavy load because we did like 5 of these chicken houses that we pulled these feeders out. I was going down a gravel road and wasn't going really fast that I thought so, but the road kind of goes downhill and there's a curve at the end right there that you had to go around. Well, needless to say, it didn't, when I mashed the brakes, it didn't do nothing as far as gravels, and it just rolled right on. We went through the fence, through the field, and right to go off is about a 15-foot little cliff that would go into the creek. There was 2 trees there that the truck wedged in between them 2 trees all the way up to the mirror and stopped us from going off. If that ain't the Lord's hand, I don't know what is.
Oh, yeah. I firmly believe God and your guardian angels probably saves you 2 or 3 times a day. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, my nickname, because of my driving skills or lack thereof, was Crash Bandicoot or Crash Murdoch. That was it, Crash Murdoch or Mario Andretti. I'd walk in and, oh, Mario Andretti's here. Anybody want to ride with him? No.
Yep.
Crash Murdoch's here. Who's riding with him? Not me. I was in so many car wrecks and stuff, several of which I shouldn't have walked away from and got out of them without a scratch. Like you said, if it ain't God's hand on you, I don't know what is.
Still got
That's
something.
just the tip of the iceberg.
Still got something he got planned for you to do. That's how you look at that.
Well, I've told Mom more than once. She sometimes worries about me being as into Bigfoot as I am. I was like, you ever think maybe God, for one reason or another, gave me Bigfoot as my hobby / obsession? Maybe there's somewhere down the road something I help somebody just by listening to me, or
Yep.
something somewhere. I don't know. Or just like my videos, the praying part, maybe I'm the closest thing to a Bible some people ever hear. You know, because you're on YouTube, Facebook. I mean, there could be somebody in outer Zimbabwe watching us. You know,
It's a lot easier to go to the corners of the earth on there than actually go.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, obviously, if I wasn't supposed to be doing it, I honestly believe God would keep me from doing it.
That's kind of the way I believe.
Like my phone, you know, almost died earlier. If this wasn't meant to be, my phone would have died and we wouldn't be here right now.
Yep.
If God didn't want me to do this.
Yep.
And that would happen every time I tried to do it. It wouldn't be once or twice until he beat the message through my thick skull. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, like I said, you read the Bible. If God wants to get your attention, he will get your attention. There's plenty of examples in there of that. Ask Jonah.
Yeah.
That's about the best example I can think of that one. God wants you to do something, he'll do it the easy way or the hard way. And if he don't want you to do something, same thing. You'll either quit the hard way or the easy way, one of the two.
Sure enough.
He might have to tell you more than once, but you'll listen eventually. Well, man, It's been great. I can't thank you enough for coming on with me.
Yeah, I thank you for having me on here.
Yeah.
And if I'm ever out there, I'll stop by and say hi.
All right, if I'm ever, Mom don't like to travel, and I can't hardly go off and leave her alone, but she's getting ready to turn 70 years old, so I can't take long extended. That's another reason I can't do a lot of investigations.
Right.
Because as she constantly reminds me, if something happens to me, who's going to take care of her? I hear that at least once a day. And she's right, but like I was going to say, if I'm ever out Arkansas way, same thing, I'll try to stop by and say hello.
Yeah, sounds good.
If you ever have a podcast or anything, you want a guest, I don't know why you'd want me, because I'm, like I said, I'm nobody special, not a professional, not a researcher. But if you ever need or want a guest or a co-host or whatever for one or whatever, I'll return the favor if you want.
All right. I ain't never got into nothing like that, like I said, so I don't know. Might someday, but
all right.
It's sure been good talking to you. And
it's been great. Like I said, I can't thank you enough. Well, we're approaching 2.5 hours. Whoever the one person that's watched the entire time, my hat's off to you.
yeah, I don't
They
know.
hung in there. I'm pretty sure I know who Primate Objective is. I think it's the same little icon with the monkey face that Pat from Squatch Talk uses. I
Huh.
don't know if you're familiar with him or not.
Uh-uh.
He's on Daniel Benoit's podcast and stuff a lot. I think he does something with Nate Rudd and Jeremiah Fountain. I've talked to him a time or two. Like I said, it's the same little icon or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And again, I'm sure he's not the only person that has that icon. It might be somebody else completely. I might be dead wrong. Like I said, this one thing in this field, it don't hurt to admit you don't know, and it don't hurt to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of people have trouble with that, but
I don't have no trouble admitting when I'm wrong. And like I said, everything that I study is, for right now, that's what it points to, and that's what I believe and what it shows. But if I see evidence different or somebody shows something, I'm all for changing what I'm
I
thinking.
reserve the right to change my mind or opinion at any time.
Yep.
Well, like I said, thanks again. Have a great day, night, tomorrow. God bless. Take care.
God bless you.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.